What does it actually mean to be human? It's a question we're still asking today, right? But if you go way back to the early Latin Christian thinkers from the 3rd to the 5th centuries, this wasn't just a question, it was the question. See, they were basically building a whole new way of seeing the world, and smack in the middle of it was this totally radical idea of what a person is. And believe me, their answers ended up shaping, well, pretty much all of Western civilization. So let's dive in and see how they put together this incredible vision of humanity, right from the very beginning.
So really, think about it for a sec. What's the one thing that truly separates us from animals? Is it that we make tools? Is it language, our crazy complex societies? For thinkers like Tertullian, Augustine, and Pelagius, the answer went way, way deeper. I mean, their entire understanding of humanity, the whole thing, really hinged on pinning down that one special quality that sets us apart from every other living thing on the planet.
Okay, so to get to their answer, we're basically going to follow the story of humanity through their eyes. We'll look at the original blueprint, then the moment everything fractured after the fall. We'll get into the huge free will debate, talk about passion, sex, and gender. And finally, look at what they saw as humanity's ultimate purpose.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. It makes sense, right? To even begin to understand what went wrong with humanity, these thinkers first had to figure out what was right. They had to define the perfect, the fresh out of the box, factory settings version of a human being. And the core concept they all landed on was this idea called the imago Dei. It's Latin for the image of God. This was it. This was the special sauce, the divine spark that made us human. And it wasn't just one thing, it was like a whole package deal. Our ability to reason, our free will, our capacity to actually have a relationship with God. But here's the thing, while they all agreed this image existed, they argued like crazy over what it actually was. And that debate got really specific. Like, where do you find this image? Is it in the body? Is it somewhere else? Tertullian, who was a really early and influential voice, he argued it was physical. He thought our actual bodies were designed to look godlike to everything else in creation. But the view that ended up winning out, the one pushed by guys like Augustine, was that the image was internal. It wasn't in the body, it was in the mind, the highest part of the soul. That was the command center, the place where God actually communicates with us.
But, no matter where they thought the image was located, they all agreed on one thing. The original human was an absolute masterpiece, a perfect, harmonious union of body and soul. And here's the real kicker. This perfect human wasn't supposed to die, ever. They were created to be immortal.
So, okay, if humanity started out as this perfect, immortal creature, what on earth happened? Well, this brings us to the central conflict of the whole story, the fall of Adam and Eve. And this wasn't just, a simple mistake. No, this was a cataclysm, an event that fundamentally broke human nature. And the consequences were, well, they were devastating. All of a sudden, the body became mortal, weak, prone to decay. The will, which was once so strong, was now completely overpowered by our passions. That divine spark, the image of God, was badly damaged, kind of buried under layers of sin. Death, which was never supposed to be part of the picture, became this horrifying, unnatural new reality. And here's the most crucial part. This broken nature got passed down to everyone. But, and this is a really crucial point they made, the imago Dei was damaged. Yeah, it was weakened and obscured. But it wasn't completely destroyed. That divine spark, it was still there, flickering inside every single person, no matter how faint. And this idea, this belief that the image was still there, even in our broken state, well, that set the stage for one of the most explosive debates in the history of Western thought. So if our very nature is broken and our will is weakened, how free are we, really? I mean, are our choices actually our own? This wasn't just some abstract philosophical question. Oh no, this became the absolute heart of a massive theological battle over the very nature of human choice. Seriously, think about it. If you're born with an inclination toward doing the wrong thing, can you truly, freely choose to do good? Or is the deck already stacked against you from the very beginning? This was the exact question that pretty much split the church. So on one side, you had this guy, Pelagius. He argued that free will is what makes us human. It's our dignity. Sure, he said we inherit mortality from Adam, but not his guilt. Every person is born like a blank slate, totally capable of choosing to do good. But then, on the other side, you have Augustine, and he argued that our will isn't free at all. Not really.
He believed human nature is so corrupted that without a direct intervention from God, we're only free to choose evil. That's it.
And Augustine, he took this idea all the way to its most radical conclusion. He eventually started teaching that God's grace wasn't just a helping hand, it was irresistible. What that means is that God decides who gets this grace, and if you're chosen, you can't fight it. You're drawn to salvation. So for you, the individual, it meant your ultimate fate wasn't really in your own hands. I mean, wow, this was a huge break from earlier Christian tradition, and it basically set the terms for this debate for the next 1,500 years.
Okay, so that's the high-level theological debate. But what did all this mean for people's actual everyday lives? How did this idea of a broken nature affect how they thought about their bodies, their desires, and even their roles in society?
Well, for these thinkers, the clearest proof of our broken will was the chaotic power of our passions, especially sexual desire. They looked at it with deep suspicion. They didn't see it as a good thing, but as this dangerous force that was a direct result of the fall. In their view, the only legitimate reason for sex was to have children within a marriage. Anything else was just giving into weakness, something that actually defiled you and tarnished that image of God inside you.
And this deep distrust of the body and its passions mapped directly onto how they understood gender, which, to be fair, was also heavily influenced by the Roman culture around them. Men were seen as the norm, the standard for humanity, they were authoritative and considered to be more fully in God's image. Women, on the other hand, were seen as the weaker sex, created second and meant to be subordinate. Some thinkers, like Augustine, even argued that a woman only really reflected the image of God fully when she was connected to a husband.
And this view could get incredibly extreme. I mean, just listen to this. In one of his works, Tertullian directly blames all women for the fall. He calls woman the devil's gateway and says that Eve's guilt lives on in every woman. It's a shocking quote, but it perfectly shows how these theological ideas about a fallen world were used to prop up a really rigid and patriarchal social order.
So, is that it? Is that the whole story? Are we just these broken creatures trapped in an endless cycle of sin and struggle? Well, no. For these thinkers, the story didn't end with the fracture. Not at all. Despite everything that went wrong, they believed humanity still had a divine purpose, and that there was a way back, a path to restoration. And they basically identified a threefold purpose for human life. First, we're here to act as God's stewards, to rule over and care for creation. Second, we're meant for community, to live with and love other people. And third, and this was the big one, the highest purpose of all, we're here to seek, know, and love God. That was seen as the #1 reason we even exist.
So the whole point, really, is that the entire purpose of life became this grand restoration project. The goal was to fix that damaged image of God inside of us. And how do you do that? Well, it was seen as a lifelong process of transformation. You had to pursue virtue. And most importantly, you had to imitate Christ.
In this path back, it had some pretty clear steps. Think of it like this. Virtue was the medicine you took to heal the sickness of our disordered passions. Imitating Christ was the practical method, the how-to guide for that healing. All the struggles and trials in life, that was the training ground, the gym where you built up that virtue. And the final goal, Christ-likeness, to become a perfected image of God just like we were supposed to be in the first place.
And all of this led to one single, inescapable conclusion for them. None of this was possible on our own. No way. This whole massive project of restoration, from start to finish, depended completely on the belief that Christ himself became human specifically to redeem and remake our broken humanity.
Look, these ideas about original sin, free will, what our purpose is, this constant struggle between our body and our soul, it didn't just stay back in the 5th century. They became the absolute bedrock of Western thought. They shaped our laws, our art, our philosophy, even our very sense of who we are. So the question to leave you with is this. These are 1,700-year-old ideas. Where do you see their echoes in our world today?